I24 News. Tensions have exploded in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Israeli commandos attacked Hamas leaders in Gaza. Palestinian militants have now fired over 300 projectiles into southern Israel.
We went outside and saw this chaos. We saw that a rocket hit the window of our neighbors and fell on the floor.
In California, wildfires are raging at both ends of the state. Strong winds are fanning the deadly flames, and the death toll has now reached 31.
We're in a new abnormal, and things like this will be part of our future.
And remembering World War I, leaders commemorated Armistice Day in France, and they blasted nationalism.
10 million dead, 6 million injured and disabled.
From the I24 News studios in Times Square in New York, this is Crossroads with David Schuster and Tal Heinrich.
We're going to have the latest on the Palestinian-Israeli conflict in just a moment, but first, authorities in Northern California are now saying that the deadly campfire is the most destructive in state history. At least 29 people have been killed, and the town of Paradise is in ruins.
The fire erupted just a few days ago and has been spread by strong winds. So far, it has burned 113,000 acres, and according to CAL FIRE, 6,713 homes and businesses have been destroyed. Fire crews say the blaze is just 25% contained.
Meanwhile, in Southern California, the Woolsey fire is one of two blazes destroying lives near Los Angeles. It grew to 91,000 acres on this day, and that is roughly equal to the size of the entire Gaza Strip. Again, we're going to have a live report from California on the fires later in the show. But back to our top story, and that is the major escalation in violence across the Israeli-Palestinian conflict along the Gaza border.
Undercover Israeli troops were discovered on a reconnaissance mission in Gaza Sunday night. This led to a firefight that killed a senior Hamas commander and 7 other militants, as well as an IDF officer.
Hamas then launched dozens of rockets into Israel. Missile sirens have been blaring, sending residents fleeing into shelters. Most of the missiles have been intercepted by the Iron Dome missile defense system, or they've landed in open fields.
Sirens were heard all across the border zone, and the rocket launches continued into today. So far, it's estimated more than 300 rockets were launched from Gaza. That's the highest rocket count in the history of the conflict.
Let's go now live to the border zone, where I24 News senior Middle East correspondent Mohammed Al-Qasim is reporting from the border with Gaza. Mohammed, what has the situation been like over the last hour?
Relentless barrage of rockets and projectiles still coming in from the Gaza Strip onto southern Israel, and the Israeli Air Force continues its bombardments of the Gaza Strip. This started yesterday when a special unit of the Israeli military entered into the Gaza Strip about 2 miles into the Gaza Strip in a secret mission. That mission was foiled, and the unit was discovered, and 1 senior Hamas member was killed in addition to 6 others. Today, late in the afternoon, Hamas retaliated, targeting an Israeli military bus, killing one soldier. And ever since, there has been a barrage of rockets and projectiles, and Israel has responded, targeting Hamas and the other Palestinian faction in the Gaza Strip, the Islamic Jihad positions throughout the Gaza Strip. 3 Palestinians have been reportedly killed and at least 10 others wounded. And up until a few minutes ago, David and Tal, before we went on air, about 5 other rockets were fired, but they were immediately intercepted by the Iron Dome. One Israeli woman in the city of Ashkelon, about 10 kilometers away from here, about 7 miles north of us, is in critical condition as a rocket landed. It was a direct hit at her apartment.
Mohammed, does it seem like there are prospects for a ceasefire at some point, maybe?
at some point, maybe, Tal, we've been through this before. President Mahmoud Abbas, who is not in the West Bank, he is on an official visit to Kuwait. His assistant says that he is, calling regional leaders and international leaders trying to contain the situation. But I think the two major parties here that people can count on is the United Nations Middle East Special Envoy Nikolai Miladinov, who said that he has been in close touch with the Israeli officials as well as Hamas officials, and also the Egyptians, who have succeeded in the past numerous times in ending the tension and violence, but it keeps erupting. However, Palestinian officials in the Gaza Strip have told me that the Egyptians are in close contact with them as well as with the Israelis.
And then, Mohammed, as far as the initial Israeli operation into Gaza, any indication who it was that the Israelis were targeting? And there have been some reports that this was essentially a botched operation. Is that fair?
That's correct. The Israeli military hasn't been open about what the nature of the operation was, David. However, Palestinians say that Israel was going after one of its senior commanders. He is a senior officer within the Al-Qassam brigades. That's the Hamas military arm wing. And he is a specialist in tunnels and digging tunnels, and he is a senior member. But other Palestinian officials within the Hamas movement said that Israel may have been trying to kidnap him, capture him, so they can negotiate with Hamas in some sort of prisoner swap or exchange between Hamas and Israel. We know that Hamas has been holding a number of Israelis as well as the bodies of Israeli soldiers, but there hasn't been any progress in these negotiations. And Hamas officials say that this could be one way for Israel to shake the negotiations. However, the unit was exposed and discovered.
Mohammed Al-Qasim, I24 News, senior Middle East correspondent, reporting from the Israel-Gaza border. Mohammed, stay safe. For more, let's bring in senior diplomatic correspondent Nina Larson. Nina, any reaction from the Trump administration to this outbreak between Israel and Hamas?
Well, Tal, not in terms of a formal presidential statement or anything coming from the State Department. That's not really a surprise today because this is a national holiday and most of those government agencies are not working here today in Washington. Also, the United States tends to step back from this kind of escalation on the border to see how things pan out on the ground before launching an official reaction in the early hours and days of a situation like this. We have heard, however, from Jason Greenblatt via Twitter. Now, he's President Trump's special envoy to Middle East peace. He works alongside Jared Kushner in trying to craft this ultimate deal, the deal between the Israelis and the Palestinians that Donald Trump wants to see come into some kind of reality in the next few months. And Greenblatt sent several tweets out this morning backing Israel's right to defend itself, saying that the U.S. stands firmly with Israel, accusing Hamas in Gaza of using, and I'm quoting, tools of war and committing terrorist acts. But that's not really any surprise. That's what we would expect.
And, Nina, for the past couple of weeks, we've seen Egypt trying to broker some sort of ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. What happens to that now?
Well, there have been these very shaky attempts at ceasefires, David, and as far as Fatah is concerned, they always want to see some kind of reconciliation process between themselves and Hamas, which governs Gaza, before there can be any possible real holding ceasefire. However, there were reports last week that Abbas, as you said, was meeting with the Egyptians, who are the usual interlocutor in this kind of situation, and are still working behind the scenes, as you heard there from Mohammed, talking to the UN's representative in Jerusalem. But there was meant to be some kind of pause in hostilities to allow breathing space for Fatah and Hamas to reach some kind of reconciliation before any formal ceasefire. But yet again, we've seen those talks crumble again and again, and the explosive situation on the ground right now.
Nina Larson, our senior diplomatic correspondent, reporting from Washington. Nina, thank you. And after the break, we're going to talk more about the violence in Gaza, in part because there's every indication that Israel is building up its tanks and troops along the Gaza border. So where is this all going to lead? Is it going to lead to an all-out war in the Gaza Strip again?
And the death toll is rising from the wildfires in California. We'll have an update from the blazes.